The U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zerelite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please be sure to check out the Discord channel. I'll have a link in the description below. Right now I'm doing a poll on my next ship build, so if you want to participate in that, be sure to check out the Discord. Once you join, click on next ship build poll, and you'll be able to vote based off of a list I've accumulated from the top requests on YouTube. But anyway, let's go ahead and hop right into today's episode. We got somewhat of a longer one, 28 minutes. We're going to be continuing our work on the cargo room. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this. So where we last left off with this room, we had the shape in place, but we haven't detailed the room yet. So we're going to start doing that. Now, the first thing that we're going to do today, this is something that you're going to see on most of the rooms. Well, don't want to say most of the rooms, but at least like the cargo room and the shuttle bay areas, they have like a ribbing going along the walls. This is going to be one of the things that we're going to be adding in. We're also going to be adding in our lighting in the ceiling, our detailing in the floor, as well as the cargo transporter stands, which would be pretty cool. I don't recall if we'll be getting into doing the doorways today or if that will be in the next episode for the cargo room doorways, but that'll be pretty cool. Yeah, we're just going to be rocking and rolling on this thing today. So you can see I've got these things spaced out in sections of 2, and I'm doing the back wall first. In other words, the back wall facing the front of the ship. And everything is going to match up based off of that. Now, originally, this ribbing that I was going to be adding, I was actually going to add this in the secondary and tertiary shuttle bays, but when I had done it, it just didn't look right, so I ended up taking them out. But this is one of the things that I like to talk about when you're building your ships, that you look for the little details and try to add them in. The more that you can get, the better. This is what's going to help to make the ship feel like it's the Enterprise D. This is why some of the times when I look at some of these other builds that people have done in the past, the interiors, they don't look that accurate, and it's because I just don't think that those people are taking the time to look at the different screenshots that you can find online of the Enterprise D. Because the cool thing about this specific ship, the Galaxy class, is that we've got 7 seasons and 1 movie that really fleshed out that interior. So we have a lot to go off of, which is fantastic, because there's not that much that we're going to have to, necessarily, just wing it like we'd have to do some areas for different ships. But this area came out pretty cool. I'm actually really happy with how this area is looking so far. But I wanted to make sure, that I did this room justice. Now this back wall that we're working on here, this is the back facing the back end of the ship. I believe we're going to be taking those lines out because that will be where the cargo doors will go. Now, to kind of shift gears a little bit while this stuff is going on, building up these the ribbing, I don't know if any of you have checked the reviews on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but I'm actually getting really, really excited because it's getting stellar reviews, the first 5 episodes, and it's fantastic. That's coming out on the 5th, which is going to be this coming Thursday. So we get to watch that this coming week, and I'm really looking forward to that because I'll probably be, I will definitely be taking a ton of screenshots in preparation of doing a season 2 at some point of the Disco era Enterprise to do kind of an informal refit to match how the ship looks on the show. That'll be pretty cool. But no, I've heard really good things about the show. People are saying that it's very close to original. It's the best Star Trek in years, and that it's very close to the original Star Treks that came out, in the 60s and then the late 80s, early 90s. And a lot of that has to do with it being episodic. That's the one thing I'm really looking forward to because um, it's funny because I was watching Trek Yards the other night, and the guy that's on Trek Yards, somebody asked him like, do you hate Discovery or um, do you hate Picard? He's like, I love all Star Trek. There's just things about them that I don't like, and I couldn't actually agree more with that because like there are things that I like about Discovery, especially this past season. I loved that they had um, a problem to solve, and it wasn't necessarily a mustache twirling villain. Even though they kind of had that on the side with Booker and his buddy, working to take out the DMA. They were basically like the informal villains of the season, even though they weren't necessarily bad guys. But I thought that was so cool how they did it. It reminded me of Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home. I loved some of the best Star Treks. You don't even need a villain; just give them a problem to face. Um, and that's one of the things I was hoping that we'd maybe get a little bit of that with Picard. Um, but they really haven't gone there too much. But no, it's really quite refreshing, and I've actually very excited to check out that show. So if you're excited about Strange New Worlds, let me know in the comments section. Let me know what you want to see. Definitely love hearing from everybody. Um, but yeah, that's something that I'm really looking forward to checking out. I've been waiting for Strange New Worlds to come out for a while because even when Pike debuted in season 2, I thought he was the best thing about Discovery at that point. Um, they really had perfect casting, for Pike, and even the guy that they got to play Spock. I think he's better than Zachary Quinto. I really do. Um, it's nothing against Zachary Quinto, but he's too soft in his approach to Spock. I'm really not. I'm not fond of it one bit, and it doesn't really reflect Leonard Nimoy's performance at all. But with that being said, Zachary Quinto, he's a decent Spock. I've got nothing against the guy. Just comparing the two, I want to say the guy's name is Ethan Peck. That's playing Spock on Strange New Worlds. If I'm wrong, don't hold that against me. But no, he nailed it. He just doesn't look as much like Spock or like Leonard Nimoy like as Zachary Quinto. Now, if you could take those two guys and merge them together, you'd have a pretty good Spock. Um, but no, the show's been pretty good, pretty decently cast. Even Rebecca Romaine is number one. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. Um, and I think the only wild card in the show that I'm not necessarily sure about, well, is two things. Khan Noonan Singh's descendant that's going to be on the Enterprise, which is kind of, I don't know if it's silly, but it's kind of a thing where it kind of makes you turn your head and like, oh no, that wasn't a thing. And then of course, them bringing Kirk in so early, and whatever character changes that they're threatening to make with the character. Hopefully they don't do it. But no, definitely a really cool time right now to be a Star Trek fan, and there's so much out there, and I love it. I hope that they keep doing this, um, and just pushing the envelope for what they could do. I think one of the things that Picard kind of established, because Picard has basically been an extended limited series. I hope that they do more of that. Um, the guy that directed uh, the Wrath of Khan, uh, he had a script for SETI Alpha 5, and I hope that they end up doing that someday. Yeah, Nicholas Mayer, he has a script that he was commissioned by Paramount to do. I think it was like a 3 episode uh, series, where it was just going to be a limited series about Khan Noonan Singh and his uh, group of people that were frozen in the time period between the original series and also um, the Wrath of Khan. I thought that was a really cool concept. I hope one day the show gets made. But I was reading an interview with him. This was before streaming was so big, and he was basically saying that he thinks the reason the show hasn't gone forward is that they want something that they can get a little bit more out of it, which I can understand. Like when you look at kind of how Picard's gone, it's a three season arc, um, but still they got 3 seasons out of it rather than 3 episodes. But I hope that they do more stuff like that in the future, because I think that there's a lot of uh, story to be told in a lot of different points in Star Trek. I mean, there's of course the lost era between um, the original crew and the TNG crew. I think it's like 78 years, if I'm not mistaken, a 78-year period. Um, that there's a whole bunch of things that flesh out in that era. Getting to see what happened to the Enterprise B, and maybe leading into the Enterprise C. But just that whole time period is kind of lost. Oh, and I do want to briefly get into this. So we are going to be working on the shuttle bay doorway, or not the shuttle bay, the cargo room doorways. But this is just going to be the first step, because you can see I'm kind of outlining them here in the room. But what we are going to do eventually is we're going to actually go back and we're going to add in walls on the other side of that orange wall there, on the left and right side, leading up to the backbone of the neck, and then we'll make a cutout, so this way, if you want to, you can have this area opened. So this will just be like a temporary placeholder. Well, this is how it's going to look, but we'll be basically going in so this way we can edit it on the outside and then flesh it out on the sides here, without that wall in place. But no, I think that that looks fantastic there. I talked about this in yesterday's episode that for the life of me, I couldn't get a confirmation if the Enterprise 3, if the Enterprise D had 3 shuttle bays, or if it had 2 shuttle bays and 1 cargo room. Because I just noticed, paying attention to the show, that when they showed the cargo bay, that it had cargo bay doors. And I never saw cargo bay doors on the Enterprise D, so that was kind of like something like, well, I've got 1 or 2 ways I can go about this. I could either delete one of my shuttle bays and convert that into a cargo room, or I can just build out another section for my cargo room and then just have doorways, which is actually what I ended up doing. I just built out this cargo room directly underneath the transporter, or excuse me, not transporter. I'm getting so tongue-tied today. I built the cargo room underneath the shuttle bays, the secondary and tertiary. But I think this will work out pretty good. So that's going to be like the only like veer from canon that you're going to see on this build, is that my Enterprise D will have 2 extra cargo room doors on the back of the neck. But I don't think it looks bad. I think it looks just fine. The ship is so big that you really don't notice it one bit, and it doesn't take away or veer away from the design of the ship in any way. Little things like this, I think you can get away with. I think the real thing is, once you start making changes that goes against the design of the ship and how it looked, to a degree that it fundamentally changes it. The change that we're making is so minor, it's just literally adding a line on the outside of the backbone of the neck when the doorway is actually closed. Now, when it's open, yeah, you'll be able to see it, but it's such a minor change that it's really not a big deal at all. So anyway, we're going to be working on our transporter cargo pads now, which would be pretty cool, because the Enterprise D did in fact have these. It makes sense that if you'd want to be able to transport large amounts of goods onto the ship, not everything's going to be replicated, whether that's food, clothing, supplies, weapons, you name it. Not everything's going to be replicated. Some things are going to be brought on board. And this is where that would come in play, because it's not really practical to bring everything up via shuttlecraft, especially if you have a transporter that can do that for you. And that's basically it for the transporter pad. Not really doing anything super crazy there. You see I'm getting in some of my sea lanterns, trying to make this room as bright as I possibly can. Because we still have a little bit more work to do. We're going to get some detailing in the floor as well as the ceiling now. No, but just kind of casually talking about all things Star Trek. One of the things that, and I've been saying this for a while, I think for me anyway, one of the things I would just honestly love to see, but I don't think it's going to happen at this point. I don't think it's in the cards. But just being a fan of Star Trek, um, I wish that Paramount and William Shatner could squash whatever problem that they have and bring William Shatner's Captain Kirk back one last time. I know somebody's going to say in the comments section, like, oh, well, he died in Star Trek Generations so that they can't do that. Listen, it's to quote William Shatner himself, it's science fiction. You can bring him back. It's just all about if the reason that you're bringing him back makes sense. He wrote a couple of books on it. Star Trek: The Return, that was one of them, and I think there were two other books that he wrote after that. I've got them somewhere. They're actually very, very good books, and they involve the Borg bringing him back, and it's an interesting story. I'm not saying that that's what they should do, but what I am saying is that I would like to see his version of Captain Kirk come back at least one more time. Um, the little tribute that they did in Star Trek Beyond, it wasn't enough for me. Um, with showing the picture of the original crew, I think that um, Captain Kirk is probably the most iconic, most recognizable science fiction character in cinema history. There's nobody bigger than him. Everybody knows who Captain Kirk is. Everybody. And I think it would be a shame if they didn't bring William Shatner back at least one more time. And it sucks because the only other way that they could do it, which would be the more likely case, but it's actually less likely to happen, is Star Trek Online. Because I don't know exactly what happened, but I guess somebody that worked, either it was Cryptic or whoever originally owned STO. I don't know what happened exactly, but somebody in the company pissed off William Shatner, and he swore from ever working with the people that made STO, which is actually a shame because to me that would be probably the more logical way to go if you're going to bring him back in the video game. Um, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. If I learned anything seeing some of these shows and movies come out, never say never, but I think the likelihood of him coming back gets less unlikely as each day goes by, because the guy doesn't look bad. He's in his 90s and he looks like he's in his late 60s. It's kind of crazy. And like I was showing my girlfriend the other day because I told her, I was like, he's 90. She's like, there's no way. And I'm like, yeah. I pulled it up online and I was like, you understand something? Like this guy, like he's aged so well, and like he can come back and play Kirk one more time, and I think it would be believable. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. Um, Trying to think of what else I would like to see with Star Trek. I think those are the main things. I want to see, more optimistic Star Trek that's episodic, and it seems like Strange New Worlds is going to hit that on the head, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to seeing Star Trek 4 with the Kelvin timeline. Um, that's another one. I hope that they apply those same ideals to Star Trek 4. I really do, because it, as much as I enjoyed those movies, they just I don't know. I feel like they tried to cater to another audience that didn't care about Star Trek. I'd say the same thing about Star Trek Discovery. They didn't make that version of Star Trek for Star Trek fans. They made it for everybody else that they were trying to get into Star Trek. And if you want to have a successful Star Trek show, just write a great Star Trek show. Don't try to make it else anything than what it is. The wheel's not broken. Um, but no, I think there's a lot of gas in the tank there in the Kelvin timeline that they can do a lot more. And I hope that they do, because those actors are still relatively young. I think that you can get possibly another 20, 25 years worth of content with them. Um, and I mean, why not? As long as the storytelling is good, I don't see a reason to move on from it. And especially nowadays, it's so hard to recast an iconic character, which is actually kind of crazy because Star Trek has managed to do that twice now with the original crew. Not all of them, but at least when it comes to Pike um, and Spock. We'll see what happens with Kirk. You guys already know my feelings on that, especially if they're going to change the character up the way that they've uh, supposedly what's leaked online. If that happens, like I don't think anybody will be excited about it. But I mean, if they stay true to it, um, we'll see. The guy that they got to play the new Kirk in Strange New Worlds, I'm honestly not familiar with his work, so I don't know if he's a good actor or not. Um, but I think even more so for him, he's going to have to do a little closer of interpretation of Kirk, closer to Shatner than even Pines was. Pine, he kind of had like loose references to Shatner here and there, like with his speech. And what I mean by that, watch the Kobayashi Maru scene um, from the 2009 movie. I mean, that's just like that whole scene is just Shatner, the way he talks and the way that he carries himself. Um, but no, I hope that I just basically I hope that nothing but good things with the crew. And again, it's so hard to recast stuff like that. I hope that they utilize that and really try to keep it going. Um, but I guess we'll see what happens. It's crazy because I've had the itch to maybe get back on Starship Evo because I want to build another ship that I can actually fly around with and use. And I've been waiting because I guess they just added a new update with the terrain manipulation. I don't know if you can actually go down on planets yet on there, but um, that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for um, something to where like I have a reason to go on there and build a ship and go around and explore the galaxy. Um, like another game that was close to that, but they really didn't quite hit it was No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky was a very interesting game, but it had a couple of big problems on it. One, I couldn't really custom. You can't build your own ship from scratch, which I think was a huge hinder on that game. And like once you get past, the planets variety looking like just basically flying down to see what they look like. Once you get past that, the game actually gets quite boring. Um, I'm waiting for either Starship Evo or No Man's Sky or a new developer to make a game that's like that, that's where you can explore the galaxy, but you have story elements in it, and you have the whole survival thing where you can build your own ships and mine your resources and all that stuff. But really having that reason to go out and explore the galaxy. Um, I'm surprised Star Trek or Paramount hasn't done that yet. I really am, because Star Trek Online, it's been going strong, but um, I think that they could make like a hybrid of Starship Evo and No Man's Sky with the Star Trek IP, or even if it's not Star Trek, just somebody like that to where you can go on there and do stuff like that. I think just that in itself would be enough to get people excited. Anyway, getting a little bit back what we got going on here, you can see I'm adding these blue cylinders. These are supposed to be cargo tubes. If you go on TNG and watch the show, they have like these blue barrels. I'm assuming that that they're cargo or to hold cargo. So that's really what they are. They're like blue with a yellow top on them, I think. Of course, we're working with Minecraft or working with blocks in Minecraft, so we can't necessarily make a blue cylinder. So we're just going to use what we have, those two single cyan blocks with the yellow on top to insinuate that. And it looks like we're almost done. We actually have a few things left to do on this, even though we won't be able to get into everything today. There's still a couple of things left to do on the cargo room. But all things considered, we've made some serious headway on this room. I think it looks fantastic. I won't say it looks perfect, but I think it looks pretty good. Definitely resembles the cargo room on the show, and that's really what I'm going for. Never trying to hit perfection. I'm just trying to, anytime I do something in Minecraft, I just try to make it to the best of my ability and try to make it as close as I possibly can to what I'm either thinking of in my head or whatever picture I'm looking at as a reference material. But it'd be pretty cool now because, I've been talking about this, that because we spent a long time working on some other areas of the ship. Like we spent a decent amount of time in engineering, we spent a decent amount of time in the mall, and now we're really getting to that point where we're starting to flesh out other areas of the ship. And this is really the most exciting part of the tutorial that I've been waiting to get to, so you guys can see all these extra rooms. Now we'll be starting to actually flesh out the interior of the Enterprise D. So there'll be a lot of cool areas coming up. We've got the deflector control room, a lot of new areas on the entertainment deck, the fencing area where where Picard used to have his fencing matches, the jiu-jitsu ring where Riker and his dad had that match. That'll be in there. There will also be the theater where it was in the TNG episode where they had the plays with Barclay that they used to have, or the music recitals. So that will be in there. We've got 10 forward, which we've already done, but I've also added in a mess hall as well as a full-fledged garden. There'll be a park to go through on the entertainment deck, and trying to think what else. There will be a couple of rooms I'm going to be adding in on the medical deck. Originally, the medical deck, I was going to make it a lot bigger than what it's going to end up being. And I think what I'm ultimately going to do is just have a couple of rooms. Like I'll have Crusher's Crusher's medical office. And then I'll probably add in a couple of labs here and there that we saw on the show, and I think that'll probably wrap it up for the medical deck. Like I said, there was a lot more that I originally intended to do on the Enterprise D, but I've just kind of been restricted for time. I'm not trying to spend 3 years working on this ship. I'm really trying to, focus on the things that I think need to be added on the Enterprise D, that when you walk through it, these are the areas that you'd look for, and then also filling in some of those gaps where they're absolutely needed. Other than that, like I said, I think that we'll be calling it a day on some of those areas. So, when the thing's done, don't hold it against me if there's a little bit of area left over. But, again, that's just coming down to time constraints. I'm not trying to blow this thing up to over 200 episodes, whatever it's going to be. But I knew that this was going to be the deal when I first started doing the Enterprise D. I knew that this was going to be the longest tutorial that I ever did. I just didn't expect it to go on for this long. And now I'm just at the point where, well, I've put this much time into it. I'm not just going to walk away from something that I don't think is finished. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And whatever length of time that takes us to complete it, that's what it's going to take. And, you guys have got my promise there that I will be completing the Enterprise D. And then once we're done with it, then we'll be moving on to the next build. And there's a lot of cool things coming on the YouTube channel. We've got the community suggestion build that is currently going on right now. So I've been trying to get everybody on the Discord so that they can vote on that. But Voyager is probably going to be the ship that wins out on that. That's been my top request on YouTube for years. But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that. And of course, once we get close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, we'll be doing the Enterprise A 1.1 refit that I'm really excited to do. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out, but I think that's going to wrap us up today. We kind of shot through 28 minutes. Yeah, we'll pick this up in episode 140 kind of impossible to think we're really hitting that number, but hey, we're just going to keep going until we're done. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. If you have any questions regarding today's episode, please let me know in the comments section. Definitely love hearing from everybody. And you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. So I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know.